Hi everyone, this is Danielle. I'm providing what's hopefully going to be a relatively short video on these writers workshops that you're going to see in some but not all of your modules throughout this term. And I wanted to address them because I did have a question about them and I've never explicitly addressed them before, so I thought this would be a great time to do that. So anyways, the purpose that they're there, firstly, note that they're not part of your grades. They're not graded. It's a workshop, so there's nothing that you have to submit as part of the workshops. They're there for your learning and for you to engage with on the level of learning. So, for example, in Module 1, you had one about learning to write that one paragraph argumentative, or argumentative one paragraph about literature. And for Module 2, it's the writing an essay length argument about literature, because prepping to do that first essay for Module 3. And then in Module 3, there's one that's focused on MLA, which again has to do with the what I call the long form of how we're writing in this course, because the one paragraph arguments that are part of the discussion assignments, those are essentially body paragraphs that you're writing, argumentative body paragraphs. The writing those should be the same, so you're as they are in the essays, right? So you're just then adding introduction, thesis, multiple body paragraphs, and then a conclusion. So we have the short form type of writing, which in this genre is called literary analysis, and then that short form is in the discussion forums. That short form is also in the final exam and the midterm exam. The short form is also in your responses to classmates, because you are agreeing or disagreeing with your classmates and then using evidence as a way to support your claim, which is an agreement or disagreement, and then you're analyzing that evidence to justify and explain why, right, your claim or your claim is quote unquote correct. Or to corroborate your claim, right? We don't usually like to use the word correct in this field. So the writers' workshops are here because this is a literature course, and when we think literature, we think reading, but that's actually yeah, you need the skill of reading and reading comprehension. Those are super basic skills that are needed for literature courses. But there is a writing aspect to literature that is essential. So the literature discipline is combination of the literature discipline is really a writing intensive discipline, and these writers workshops are here to provide that extra information about writing instruction that is not being discussed in other assignments. So for example, if you took English 1, 2, 3, or if you've taken a composition course at another college or university, you had a course that was dedicated to learning about writing. In this course, and in other courses as well, not just this one, but in other courses as well, and I'm also speaking as somebody who has a lot of experience with working with faculty who don't have a background in writing pedagogy like I do. And I also worked as a writing center director for 7 years, so I'm used to working with faculty in this capacity. But faculty who work in other areas often say to me, like, I don't have time to teach my students writing. I just kind of expect them to do this. Like, where am I supposed to teach them writing in my course? Like, I have to teach them all these other things, or they're doing all these other things, but they also need to know how to write. So these writers' workshops are kind of, because this isn't a quote-unquote writing class, although it really kind of is, because the discipline of literature is also a discipline of writing. Because you can't talk about literature without using writing as a medium to talk about it. And I would make that argument as a humanist for all disciplines. You can't make an argument about whatever it is you're doing without being able to communicate it effectively in some way. You can do whatever you want to do in, UAV technology, but if you're unable to communicate that effectively in writing, then how are other people supposed to understand what it is you're doing? So writing is essential to all disciplines. I'm sure you've heard this before. If not, I'm telling you now. But because this course is not a composition course, meaning it's not a course on writing, even though I would disagree as a literature person, as somebody who has spent, going on 20 years in writing or in literature, I would tell you that literature is writing. We're reading writing, and we're writing about reading, writing about writing, writing about writing, writing about reading, writing about, it's all intertwined. So that's what these writers' workshops are doing. And all of the assignments in the course are all writing, and it's intensive writing. It's all academic writing. 10% are all the discussion assignments, right? And as I will emphasize throughout the course, all the writing is the exact same. It's all literary analysis. Whatever you're writing in this class, it should be literary analysis. It should be highly formal. The study questions, same thing. Essays, same thing. Midterm exam, final exam, same thing. All the same type of writing. It's all writing. There's a reason for this. I'm not going to go through it right now. That's the reason I'm doing that PowerPoint that I said stay tuned for. It's just that I have so much information that I want to talk about. I'm really trying to pare down exactly what I'm talking about, because I don't want to overwhelm my students, which I sometimes do and sometimes don't. Sometimes people like to have a lot of information. Sometimes they don't. I know that I don't always win all my students, and that's fine. So going back to, for example, like in the Jekyll and Hyde Writers Workshop, where it talked about, what is the literary argument. This is something that I talk about in the PowerPoint that I'm working on right now. It talks about the basic, what constitutes the 3-step model, the claim, the evidence, and the analysis. This is something that I supplemented with my video on the 3-step model. I just go into exceptional depth that you should know. It's not too much depth. It's the type of depth that I'm really giving to you as a gift, because not everybody's going to tell you that, because you're going to get instruction down the line that is, I don't have time to teach my students these things. So I am doing the double work of teaching literature and writing at the same time. And that's because I want to see my literature students write in a certain way. Because I'm aware of the type of skill sets that literature should be teaching. And I'm trying to do that work And so that's why I'm also supplementing these writers' workshops with my own writing instruction. For example, with that 3-step model, those videos here. And I know they're long, and I gave the PDF on it as well. But I really tried to break down, okay, when we're actually talking about argumentative body paragraphs, this is actually the type of things we're talking about, and this is actually what they mean. Because the writer's workshop does a nice job of kind of like, it's not giving you too much information so that it's overwhelming and makes you want to run off screaming into the night, like with a lot of anxiety. This might, but this is the reality of it. So if I say like, hey, you're missing evidence analysis, and this is something I also point people back to again and again, watch that 3-step model videos that I have. Watch the 3-step model videos. Watch the 3-step model video. Because this is this how to do argumentative body paragraphs in the minutia when we're really trying to do it in the small ways. And so using this in combination with that one particular writer's workshop would be ideal. So that's to why do I always lose myself here? Here we go. Modules. Not modules. Yes, modules. Wrong modules. Okay. Too many things to click on. This is why I should never have this many tabs open. Okay. But that's ideal, right? And same thing with if we open up the one for module 2, but that's what this is. It's writing, and it's the writing instruction part of a class that is presumed not to be a class about writing. Again, I want to argue that, but that's just me. There's a little bit I want to say here about this particular writer's workshop. This outline is a good outline to start with. This is what we call the 3.5 essay. If you've never heard of the 3.5 essay, it's okay. I'm sure you've done one at some point in your life. I did them when I was in high school a long, long time ago, back in the 90s. And the 3.5 just stands for 3 points in 5 paragraphs. That's all it stands for. And we say and we call it the 3.5 because it's something that's usually taught in high school, and it's something that is usually taught in preparation for test taking. So it's usually come up with 3 points or 3 subclaims that help to support the overall thesis for the essay, and then you have the 3 body paragraphs, one that each one deals with and develops each respective subclaim. And then you have the introduction, which I have a lot to say on introductions, which I will probably do a separate video on rather than saving it for feedback. And then a conclusion, and then of course a thesis statement. So this is all to say that in the long run, college professors don't like the 3.5 essay, and that's because the 3.5 essay is a really good starting point for an essay. But when we think about 3.5 essays, when we think about 3 subclaims, it's honestly too many. We really like to, I mean, sometimes it works, but you're honestly not doing like 10-page papers at this level. I mean, it's a 100-level course. So when we think about 3 points in a non 8 to 10-page paper, that's a lot of claims to be discussing and do the rhetorical work that an introduction needs in a literary analysis, while discussing 2 texts, 2 primary source texts. It's too many claims. And so what that essentially means is what people usually end up doing is, right, because you'll have to select 1 short story from Module 2 and 1 short story from Module 3, is people will do body paragraph 1 on short story 1, body paragraph 2 on short story 2, and maybe if their analysis, if they've done sufficient analysis in these 2 paragraphs, they only have 2 body paragraphs, and that's fine. You don't need more than that. If you've done what you've been able to do, then you don't need 5 paragraphs. And then you have a conclusion that, I mean, yeah, does something a little bit more than that. But occasionally someone will, if there's a really concise writer out there and not a wordy writer like me, if you can really get your point across in each story in the first 2 body paragraphs, then what you do is you move on to synthesis, which means you have this 3rd body paragraph where you talk about both stories in some argumentatively meaningful way. Right, so then you have this 3rd paragraph where you talk about them together, and then you move on to the conclusion. So that's normal as well. So that's all to say that there's no, that's why I say the 3.5 is a good starting point, but then there are ways you can go and kind of play with it a little bit. So start there, but then, it's all about the assignment, and there's going to be times when you're going to be asked to do different things, and you're just going to have to kind of eventually just, use it as a starting point, but then launch away from it eventually. But this whole video, and I don't want to go too much longer, again, just to explain what to do with it. It's writing instruction to support the writing end of the course, because all of our assignments are writing based. That's the purpose of the writers' workshops. But again, these are not graded. These are here to help you with the writing, and that's because our textbook does not have writing instruction in it. This is not a composition course. But I will, like I said before, I am doing double duty. I am offering teaching in literature or literary analysis, not so much in the literature discipline in terms of literary analysis, and in writing instruction, under the aegis of the type of writing that is necessary for this course. I'm not just throwing any type of writing teaching at you. I'm throwing writing instruction at you that I feel like is applicable to this course. And honestly, the type of writing that is applicable to this course is very applicable to other courses, because you're really just writing argumentatively. And that type of writing is, the skills that are needed for that type of writing are what we call transfer skills. And they're called transfer because they can be transferred to other disciplines. They're not just exclusive to the humanities or to literature. So, Yeah, you'll be getting that throughout this course, and I try not to focus on it too much, but you'll be getting kind of double doses from me. Like some days I'll be focusing on literature, some days I'll be focusing on writing. But I always tell my literature students, literature courses are not about literature, they're about the skills. And one of those skills is writing. And writing is communication. And you have to learn how to communicate. Like, hands down, one of the most important skills to learn. So I hope this answers some questions about like the writer's workshop, like what it's doing there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Other than that, I hope everything is going well, and I am here and available if anybody needs me. And that's it. So be safe, everybody out there. I know things are on the rise, but I'm here, and feel free to email me or message me on Canvas. I like to get back to people as soon as possible, and that's all I have for you today. Bye-bye.